So one of the first things I did was join several physician non-clinical career groups on Facebook. If you DM me, I can try to send you like the exact names of some of those groups if you're not already a part of that. I also joined some specific groups of the title Utilization Management Physician Advisor, or a combination of those. So typically I'll see physician advisor like when people are doing this work on the hospital side. And then you'll see like medical director, in my case, behavioral health medical director, if you're working on the insurance, the payer side. So I did that. Those groups are invaluable because people there will be honest. You have people who are working at a lot of the major companies already. They can help you through the interview process. They have a lot access to a lot of other resources that they used. So that's really invaluable. I know a lot of people aren't on Facebook nowadays, but those groups, those communities, for me were really vital. I also ultimately ended up paying for a group coaching program. It was run by a physician who helps doctors transition into non-clinical careers. And as part of that group coaching, we had multiple templates that you could get. And I cannot stress to you how important it is to take your clinical CV and translate it into a non-clinical resume. And if I would have done that and actually paid for this coaching program and the templates ahead of time, I likely would have had a shorter transition than like about a year and a half to get my non-clinical position, because I made a lot of missteps and I had a lot of trouble translating into words what my non-clinical skill set was. The thing is, when you start getting interviews, if being like a board certified physician is the baseline level of requirements, then you can trust that they already know that you're qualified in that way. And what they're looking for is the other skills you had that would transfer into being good, a good fit for this position. So for example, being on committees, teaching, physicians often have a lot of program management skills, even though we don't tend to think of it that way. If you do public speaking, all of those translate into skills, involving your interpersonal capacity, communication capacity, just all of your executive skills. And learning how to take that and put it in a way that people in the business world understand. Because in the clinical world, we know what we do, but in the business world, they want to see what else you can bring to the table. I'm not sure if I mentioned in that video, but I have a master's degree in public health and my concentration was health policy and management. And that's not necessary for this work at all. But you better believe I use that in my experience with policy and management to kind of flip it to make it relevant when I was interviewing. So whatever you have, non-clinical skills, learning to translate that, I cannot stress that enough. Then, I set up a LinkedIn profile. I pay for LinkedIn Premium for the time that I was in the process of interviewing. To me, it was necessary because I was able to connect with recruiters. I did some just like cold outreach to other people who were at the companies who were behavioral health medical directors. I will say that I had a lot more success reaching out to physicians within those Facebook groups for the phone contact. So I did talk to several docs. None of them were behavioral health medical directors, but some of them were at the companies that I was interviewing at. And one of the companies that I interviewed at had a very interesting interview process where you had to videotape the basic interview questions before you could go to the next level with the hiring manager. And I had never had an interview where I had to record my answers. And so, reaching out to other people in the company, even though they weren't in mental health, to say like, how did you navigate that process, was very helpful. And I've also talked to people, who've reached out to me to want to ask questions. So the community within the Facebook group I found was more useful than cold outreaches on LinkedIn, but it's still important, Again, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile that's up to date to highlight your transferable skills, then, getting help with that also sometimes through coaching can be helpful. I also started listening to podcasts, non-clinical career podcasts. That also may be as helpful as the Facebook groups because there's a lot of direct practical experience about how to navigate this landscape that, it's just like free information. Again, I can share those with you if you're interested. I think I've done that before. I probably have to, I think on one of my posts, but it may be a while back, I had taken some screenshots of some of the podcasts that I have found to be most helpful. Because sometimes I don't know what your situation is, but sometimes people who are trying to transition into UM have like very specific situation. Like maybe they're an international graduate who's not licensed here. Maybe they're not board certified. Some people just have certain circumstances. And a lot of times those podcasts have very specific episodes about certain situations that might apply to you that can help you in your transition. So I found those to be very helpful. And then just start going onto the websites. I would say if you're looking from the payer side of the major payers, start looking at the openings. Start looking at what the verbiage is, because you're going to want to craft your non-clinical resume to each position that you're applying to. The 5 major payers I would say are going to be Humana, CVS, Aetna, Optum United Health Group, Elevance, which used to be Blue Cross, and Cigna. I hope that I got them all. There's a ton of other utilization management type of companies. Some of those are going to be like private companies where you can do contract work or part-time work to start to get experience in the work. Again, there's a Facebook group that's really geared toward what those other companies are, where you can do contract work or part-time work. I did consider that, but I was so, I guess, focused on getting a full-time position just due to the nature of my situation and need for benefits and stuff like that. I didn't consider doing that, but that is a way that a lot of people get experience, and even having any experience can give you a little bit of a leg up, even though it's not required. I'm telling you that the UN part, you can learn that. It is not that hard. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but you'll pick that up pretty quickly. It's really just getting your foot in the door. So I hope that's helpful, and feel free to DM me if you want those more specific resources.